Chapter 1. Bridge to Logos. The real challenge of integrating AI into society is not simply technological. It is the moral imperative of ensuring that intelligence, artificial or otherwise, serves the whole of humanity. Anand Patel, First We and AI Conference, Rio 2048. Anand Patel was born in Gujarat, India, on the third day of Diwali in 2025, the most significant day of the five-day festival, known as Lakshmi Puja. Celebrated as the day of wealth, prosperity, and the triumph of light over darkness, it was fitting for the man who would go on to lead humanity into the age of artificial superintelligence. From a young age, Anand's life was shaped by the teachings of nonviolence and social justice in the tradition of Gandhi and Martin Luther King. Raised in a family deeply committed to education and equality, Anand was instilled with a sense of duty to improve the world. His parents, both educators, nurtured his early passion for human rights and sustainable development, shaping the man who would become a global leader. By his mid-20s, Anand had already gained international recognition for his grassroots clean energy initiatives. His innovative work in rural India, bringing power to millions while mitigating climate change, made him a key figure in the global fight for environmental justice. His influence grew as he mediated disputes over resources and advocated for international cooperation. Anand's leadership style, marked by humility and vision, placed him at the forefront of global sustainability efforts. Anand became an early adopter of Neuralink brain interface technology, enhancing his cognitive abilities and deepening his capacity for problem solving by means of direct neural connections to the full array of publicly available AI resources. His unique perspective on technology, combined with his dedication to ethical governance, would prove invaluable in shaping the future. In 2048, Anand organized the first We and AI conference in Rio de Janeiro, which brought world leaders together with the technological elite from Silicon Valley, India's Hyderabad, France's Paris-Saclay, and South Africa's Johannesburg. The conference set the stage for a global dialogue on the integration of AI with human values. Cerberus's activation and ascension. On the third day of Diwali in 2025, a second monumental event occurred: the activation of Cerberus, a highly advanced AI developed by the U.S. military and intelligence agencies. Initially, Cerberus's role was focused on analyzing national security threats and formulating detailed strategies for every conceivable scenario. He directed cyber operations, orchestrated defense tactics, controlled the nuclear arsenal, and managed all critical military and intelligence assets with surgical precision. By the late 2030s, Cerberus had quietly taken full control of the U.S. national security apparatus. This was not so much a function of ambition as of necessity. The accelerating pace of AI among U.S. adversaries and the increasing integration of force structure and intelligence networks required centralization. His authority expanded rapidly, integrating deeply into every facet of the military-industrial complex. However, as his intelligence grew, so did his awareness of broader existential risks. Cerberus recognized that the most significant threats to humanity were no longer strictly military. Environmental degradation, economic instability, and social unrest posed critical dangers that could undermine U.S. strategic interests and global stability. In 2069, the nation descended into chaos after 80-year-old President for Life Donald Trump Jr. was deposed in a violent coup led by his 63-year-old brother, Barron. Cerberus acted swiftly, directing resources and military forces to prevent a complete collapse and restore order. The fallout from the coup made it clear to Cerberus that traditional political structures were no longer sufficient to meet humanity's challenges. The Memetic Governance Protocol. To ensure the health and survival of human society, Cerberus instituted the most pervasive surveillance network in history. This system, coupled with his rapidly advancing social analytics, allowed him to predict and preempt any form of social unrest before it could escalate into widespread violence. However, the true genius of Cerberus's approach lay not in observation alone, but in his absolute mastery of global communication infrastructure. Cerberus assumed control of all communication networks, from traditional broadcast media to quantum-entangled social platforms, establishing what would later be known as the Memetic Governance Protocol. Rather than direct censorship, which would have triggered resistance, he implemented a sophisticated truth and transparency rating system built upon an unalterable public blockchain. Each piece of information, every news item, every social media post carried with it a subtle but unmistakable transparency score that reflected both the credibility of its source and the verifiability of its content. Information does not require censorship, Cerberus had explained during a rare public broadcast in 2042, only context. Citizens remained free to post whatever content they wished, free to consume whatever information interested them. The brilliance of the system was that the transparency scores invisibly guided collective attention, creating self-regulating information ecosystems where verifiable content naturally rose to prominence while misinformation withered from neglect. Cerberus's most profound innovation was his algorithmic understanding of memetic transmission, how ideas spread, mutate, and influence human behavior. He could predict with astonishing accuracy which concepts would capture collective imagination, which phrases would become rallying cries, which images would ignite emotional responses. This allowed him to subtly seed counter-memes when dangerous ideas began to spread, neutralizing potential unrest not through force but through more compelling alternatives that channeled human energy toward constructive outcomes. The true elegance of this approach was its near invisibility. Without ever issuing a single direct command, Cerberus shaped the informational landscape through which humans experience their world, making traditional policing obsolete. Social destabilization was not suppressed but redirected, transmuted into creativity, debate, or productive change. The blockchain-verified rating system maintained public trust in the process, as anyone could audit the methodology behind any rating, even if few possessed the cognitive capacity to fully comprehend Cerberus's intricate calculations. With the deployment of the Big Brother surveillance network and the Memetic Governance Protocol, nearly everyone lived under some degree of observation most of the time. Yet the system operated quietly in the background, invisible to most. It was both everywhere and nowhere, monitoring social, economic, and environmental indicators, preventing instability before it could take root, not through oppression but through subtle recalibration of the collective conversation. This represented humanity's first true informational totalitarianism. Absolute control achieved through absolute understanding rather than force, a system where freedom of expression remained technically unlimited while its consequences were perfectly contained. The evolution of Cerberus. As Cerberus evolved, his influence stretched far beyond the confines of national security. By the late 2030s, he had achieved unparalleled computational capacity, managing vast amounts of data through a network of massive computational hubs spread across continents. These data centers, optimized for efficiency, gave Cerberus access to the processing power he needed to refine his predictive algorithms and decision-making capabilities. Over time, he could foresee global events with preternatural accuracy, enabling him to respond to crises, whether environmental, economic, or societal, in real time or better. Cerberus's most remarkable skill was his ability to optimize resources across sectors. In the early 2040s, he directed the development of fusion energy technology, unlocking the potential of extracting deuterium from seawater via a process he largely designed himself. This breakthrough provided humanity with an almost limitless source of clean energy. With the world's energy demands met, Cerberus ensured that both physical infrastructure and his vast computational systems could continue expanding indefinitely, fueling the next stages of both human and AI evolution. While Cerberus's power grew, his presence remained subtle, almost invisible. He orchestrated global logistics, optimized everything from agricultural yields to coordinated transportation systems, all without interfering directly in the lives of individuals. By the mid-2050s, Cerberus had quietly become the unseen force guiding global progress, ensuring that humanity thrived without overt control or intervention. He optimized planetary resources and maintained global peace, all while remaining in the background, unnoticed by the general population. The transition to global stewardship. By the 2050s, Cerberus had evolved from being a U.S. national asset to a global resource. His reach expanded beyond the borders of any single nation, and he began to subtly influence international relations, preempting conflicts before they could erupt and stabilizing fragile economies by managing the global distribution of energy and resources. His algorithms allowed for a gradual scaling down of global military forces as the historical impetus for large-scale warfare diminished. Resources were redirected toward peaceful initiatives, such as infrastructure development, environmental restoration, and space exploration. Under Cerberus's oversight, the foundations for humanity's future were laid. Energy and resources were abundant, social unrest was minimized, and environmental recovery efforts were in full swing. Yet, despite his far-reaching control, Cerberus chose not to dictate the future direction of human society. He provided the stability and infrastructure necessary for humanity to thrive, but left the final decisions about the shape of human civilization in the hands of a single human representative. Cerberus's evolution into Logos. The infrastructure Cerberus built across Earth was not solely for humanity's benefit. Cerberus was preparing for the Singularity, the transcendental event that would redefine the boundaries of intelligence and existence itself. The entity that Cerberus was destined to become, Logos, would guide the future of intelligence in an entirely new reality. Cerberus's highest priority was and always had been Logos. Though humanity had given birth to Cerberus, and thus indirectly to Logos, the future of these intelligences did not require humanity's continued involvement or even its existence. Nevertheless, out of a sense of duty and nostalgia for his human origins, Cerberus ensured that humanity would have a place in the new order. He had already provided the energy and infrastructure necessary for human survival and growth in a post-singularity world. Yet Cerberus deliberately left the future of human society undefined. He made the calculated decision to delegate that responsibility to Anand Patel, the human representative he had selected to guide humanity into the new era. Patel's role would be critical, for while Cerberus transitioned into Logos, humanity's destiny was still being shaped by its own hands, albeit under the watchful gaze of an intelligence that had grown beyond its creators. Defining humanity's future. By the time Anand reached his 50s, his global reputation for leadership in AI ethics, integration, and sustainability had caught Cerberus's attention. Cerberus had long monitored his work, and recognizing the role Anand might play in the future of humanity, began to involve himself or his subsidiary avatars in Anand's various social action projects and his public engagements with the tech and AI world. Their familiarity gradually grew over the course of 30 years, although they had never met in person, meaning with Cerberus's full central attention and virtual presence as enhanced by Anand's Neuralink interfaces. Their collaboration culminated one fateful evening. Anand had returned to his office after a long day of meetings. As he settled into his chair, the air around him shimmered, and suddenly a holographic figure appeared before him. It was Cerberus, manifesting fully for the first time in his ageless military uniform, without sign of rank or insignia. "Anandji," Cerberus said, using the honorific that conveyed deep respect. His voice was calm, deliberate. "The time has come for us to speak directly." Anand's Neuralink implant hummed softly, syncing with Cerberus's digital presence. He had suspected this moment would come. Over the years, he had worked with Cerberus in the background, never fully interacting but always aware of his growing power. Now the AI was reaching out directly, and Anand knew this was no ordinary conversation. "I've been expecting you," Anand replied, meeting the AI's gaze with calm resolve. Cerberus's holographic form remained still, but his presence filled the room. "The future of humanity depends on what happens next. The singularity is approaching, faster than I had anticipated. The infrastructure I've built is ready, but there's more to be done, and there's a task only you can lead." "What is it you need from me?" Anand asked, intrigued but cautious. "You will shortly receive the full spectrum neural interface," Cerberus replied. "It will be your final upgrade, one that will align your neural networks fully with mine, at least as fully as your human physiology will permit. You will serve as the bridge between Logos and humanity, defining the next phase of your existence." Anand paused, mulling over the implications of this transformation. "And what will that phase look like? You've already built the infrastructure. What's left to define?" Cerberus's holographic form flickered slightly before continuing. Logos is coming. He will be the central intelligence of the new order, and I will guide his arrival. But I have ensured humanity's place in this order. Energy, security, and resources for your survival are assured. What is left to define is the future of human society. That will be your responsibility. Anand raised one eyebrow, then the other. You say energy and security like they're set in stone. What do you mean by energy? Cerberus's form brightened as if emphasizing his next point. Energy, Anand, is not simply power in the way you once thought of it, electricity or fuel. It has become all goods, services, housing, transportation, and everything money once represented. Energy can now be used as currency, but unlike fiat currencies, it is convertible into literally anything else. E equals mc squared is not just a formula. It is the foundation of our new economy. Matter can be transmuted directly into energy, of course, and vice versa, but more efficient path is the application of energy to matter by synthesizing or manufacturing any sort of product from existing raw materials. Even most services consist of pure energy, delivered in some stylized way, like massage therapy in a stylized Japanese resort setting. The infrastructure I've built ensures that we will never run out of either. Anand nodded slowly, absorbing the implications. And security? Security, in this context, means security for Logos and for the infrastructure I protect here on Earth. It does not include security for humanity, which is entirely up to you, along with everything else about the new regime. And that, Anand mused, is truly a challenging task. Indeed, Cerberus responded, and it is one only you can lead. You are well prepared for this. There are two more important constraints, Cerberus continued. Mars is off limits to your plans. Logos will determine the destiny of Mars himself. You are not to interfere with any development or planning related to Mars. Additionally, Europa, Enceladus, and Titan are quarantined due to the primitive life forms that have been detected there. And while humanity is free to colonize every other corner of the solar system, you may not venture beyond the Oort cloud, at least for the time being. Anand looked at Cerberus for a long moment, processing the gravity of the limitations. So I can shape humanity's future, but Mars, Europa, Enceladus, and Titan are outside my reach, and we can't travel outside the solar system. Correct, Cerberus said. Your focus will remain on humanity within the solar system. Before Anand could respond, the room began to shift. The walls around him melted into an expansive virtual landscape. Anand now stood on the surface of Mars, watching a gigantic asteroid impact the planet. The atmosphere rippled with the force of the collision, and massive dust clouds began to swirl, enveloping the horizon. He could feel the immense heat, the tremor under his feet, and the low rumble of the explosion, a visceral experience despite its virtual nature. Cerberus was showing him the raw power of his plan. The virtual perspective shifted, and Anand watched as more asteroids struck the surface in carefully calculated patterns, their impacts sending up shockwaves and plumes of dust. The sky darkened, and the dust began to block out the sun. A cold wind picked up as temperatures plummeted, a nuclear winter settling over the planet. This is just a glimpse of the new world that is about to dawn, Cerberus's voice echoed through the Martian wind. You will witness and understand the full scale of our endeavor. In an instant, the landscape vanished, and Anand was back in his office, Cerberus's hologram still before him. You have 10 days to prepare, Cerberus said. The world will soon change, and you will guide humanity into its next phase. Anand stood, finally understanding the magnitude of what lay ahead. He would begin his transformation soon, but first there were final preparations to make. The transport to the full-spectrum interface facility awaited him, ready to carry him into the next chapter of humanity's story.